Good morning. It's a Saturday, a little bit of a break for a little bit, have some maintenance to do. What I got to do this morning, one of the things I notice every once in a while, I get a little bit of a miss. This is a 2008 F350, 6.4 liter. But once a month or occasion when I hear kind of a little stutter every once on a motor, that has usually come down to some water, maybe starting to come past the primary fuel filter, fuel water separator that's down in the bottom. So we're going to drain that. We'll go underneath in a second and just see how that's done. It's probably one of the simplest tasks, but the first time I did it, made a mess. So now the simplest thing with it, only thing you're going to need, I've got some kind of a container. I've got the old, I hope my wife doesn't see this, but it's out of service because it's now the measuring cup for the shop. But that's what I'm going to catch the fuel water mix that's going to come out and the water that's in there, so I keep from making a mess on the ground or down on the bottom. I need that to catch it. I have a hose here, just a fuel hose. This is 5/16 actually, which seems to fit on there quite well. About that long. There's nothing particular about it. You're just going to see a male barb fitting that is coming down from the fuel water separator. Now, you don't have to use a hose, but that's all going to come on your hands and just kind of splatter and come down on the ground there. So all this is there is to put that on there and direct this to my little container. And then all else you need is just a small pair of pliers. This is a small, very small quarter turn pitcock that's going to open up to let the water drain out of the bottom. So I don't want to be putting a lot of torque on it, don't need a big wrench, and there's not a lot of room past that, so this little wrench is fine. But why are we doing it? Well, this is a fuel water separator. Fuel is going to be on top of water. Water is going to separate to the bottom because it's heavier. Diesel fuel, gasoline, hydrocarbons are lighter, so they're going to float on top. You can see them separate. So this is the low point in the system, down on the frame rail, past the tank, that's going back up to the engine, to the primary fuel filter, or excuse me, the secondary fuel filter and all the stuff in the engine. So this is the low point where the water will want to go, and this is where we're just going to let it come out the bottom. And now, another reason this is important, this would be if it was great weather. We'd still need to do this because we don't want that building up and droplets of water getting to the engine, getting in injectors and rust and all kinds of bad stuff. But we do snow plowing and out working in very cold conditions sometimes. So what if the truck's sitting there and you get more and more water build up in that primary fuel filter and that turns to ice? Not good. So especially in cold weather conditions, there's just another exacerbated problem that's going to come along with not doing this. I'm going to say once a month. Once a month, you should get, a small amount out of there. You may get a bad batch of fuel somewhere where it is in the fuel in the tank, and you end up catching it there. So if you go to a strange place and you notice something different with the motor, after you just filled up, you may want to go ahead and check this and do it. So let's get underneath and take a look at it. All right, I'm here at the fuel water separator right here. To give you a reference about where I'm at, I'm on the left frame rail, right behind the left front tire, before the cross member here, right near the four-wheel drive differential or gear case. So right up here, and you'll see the two yellow ambery kind of parts. This is the part I'm going to put the hose on, and this is where the water and maybe a little bit of fuel will come out. This is the quarter turn that I'm going to turn this direction to open it up. I'm going to watch this in this. What's nice about a clear container, or let's say semi-clear, it's pretty dirty, is I can see that I have water or I don't. If diesel fuel starts coming out right away, I'm just going to go close it and we're good. There's nothing down on the bottom. So let me go ahead and get set up here, get the hose on, and we'll see what we got. Well, here's some good news. Got our drain down into this, and if we can look, there is no water. You would see a distinct level or line between this diesel fuel in the bottom. Now you can see a whole bunch of like grit and a few things. Now I didn't wipe this thing out great. I did wipe it out some, so there was a little bit of probably junk in there. Then you have the spigot, I'm going to call it, that's coming out of the bottom of the separator that already had some dirt on it. Might have been some inside of the hose. There's a couple of flakes there I think could actually be from this before it's getting to the primary filter, but good news, this is just something to check. There is no water at all in the very lowest point of the system, so that's some good news for the future. And we'll just see. In case I get a bad batch down the road, I might come in here 1 month and there's a 3 or 4 millimeters at the bottom. That would be bad. But simple check, security, we're ready for some more snow. All right, next thing I'm going to do before I do this, and it may not be required a lot of the times, but anytime I'm open up any of the fuel system, I want to go ahead and bleed a little bit, go through a cycle with stuff. One of the times I did one of the fuel filters, man, I just had a time. It just seems like if you go by the manual key cycles, let it go for a little while, do it several times, it should go through the system and return and take bubbles back. But most of the time it hasn't. And I've heard of other people that have that problem. So basically, let me explain that again. We were down there at the fuel water separator, the pump, all that system, it's going down in the bottom, coming up to the engine. And then when it's sitting there not being used, it is also being returned back in another line back to the tank. So what we're going to do is turn on the key, leave her 15-20 seconds, do that like 5 times. May not need to. I didn't get really much out of the system, but I'm going to do that because I do have a fuel bleeder system that I can put on there on a Schrader valve on the front and get the air bubbles out up to the top and all that if I have an issue with it, but I would rather not have to do that, so I'm just going to do this for security's sake. We'll let this go for about 15 seconds. It's actually flowing right now, and if you do hear a hum, that is actually the vacuum pump up in the front, not a fuel pump, but we'll just give this a few times. So I'm going to do this maybe like 5 times, then we'll start it up again. All right, I should have mentioned, actually, before I crawled out from underneath the truck, I was actually getting a little bit wet. I'm in the gravel, not comfortable, not much room for even the camera down there, so I didn't get to film every step the way I'd exactly want, but make sure that you close the valve down there. That'd be a good idea. You don't have stuff, but you'll see that while you're down there. So everything's closed. I'm on the lap. I've already done the 5 cycles, so I'm going to just go ahead and give her a start up. Let the glow plugs warm. See how long it takes on this one. There we go. I'm at 154,947 on this 6.4. I do baby it a little bit. I mean, I work it hard. It plows snow. I got to take the plow off here in a minute, do some maintenance on it. But I change the oil in this thing every 2,000 miles. I'll do that on another video, why I do that, what I use, and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of money tied up in this truck and equipment installed on it. So it'd be simple as just, there's so much time tied up in this truck. I want to keep it going for a long time. So that was the fuel water separator, getting the water out of your system, just taking care of your baby and your engine a little bit. Have a good day.